Hi, this is a good opportunity for me to introduce you to the subject of conservation, which is very contextual in our third world country, and especially when we are talking of climate change. Conservation is one field of conservation of built heritage is one field of architecture where we specialize in dealing with historic buildings. And normally, when we talk of historic buildings, people associate it with a century old buildings. But of late, we are also talking of the modern heritage, which is the recent RCC constructed Art Deco and things which have been done by leading architects. So the question which comes in mind is why is the subject of conservation important? Conservation is important from many folds because when you graduate out as an architect, you have many streams. You have the real estate, you have to work with builders, or you get a chance to do with landscape, but you also have chance to work on historic areas of the city. Any city has a historic area, and the buildings which are there are have been there for a long time, and they are landmarks. And along with the landmarks, you have the grain, which is the normal fabric of the city. So there is a symbiotic relationship of the grain with the landmark. Many a times we find that these so-called grain, which is the normal residential buildings, since they were not very well maintained and they come under with cess with they come under cess this thing we need to they were not maintained, so they need to undergo redevelopment. And when we have redevelopment which comes in, then you have these small grain which becomes prime landmark, and that's where things go wrong. And this is the time where conservation as a subject comes in. So the field of conservation has a wide spectrum. It deals with urban conservation, especially when you're talking of cities and the historic areas. As you would know that Mumbai has two World Heritage Sites, the CSMT station or the old erstwhile Victoria Terminus, and the Art Deco and the Gothic Revival precincts. So this is a subject which is dealing with larger areas where you have to talk of its conservation, how the building should be in terms of height, volume, details, how there can be good contemporary architecture which can go and complement the historic fabric. So this is one area. The second area is architectural conservation, where you are specifically talking of techniques of conservation, the philosophy of conservation, how to restore a building, how to find the materials, the traditional skills. And in conservation, you try to use the like-to-like materials, and we try to, underplay our role as architects and try to respect the first person's creation. So many a times, the best compliment when a conservation architect can get is, "What have you done?" That means you've respected the first person's creation completely. Then the third dimension comes material conservation, which is where the conservators comes in, which is more under microscope. And you have the conservators who know how to remove paint, how to restore wood or wall painting or artifacts. So these are the three large spectrum of areas which are there in conservation, and it is a very fascinating field where you get totally engrossed. You learn so many new things. You see the old details and how they've worked, and sometimes it's so astonishing that these are the things which we missed out studying while we were in schools or colleges and things like that. But these buildings teaches us. The very fact that they've survived more than 100 years is a point in proof that they have been designed with a lot of sensitivity. So these are the spectrum, and many a times you can dabble between urban conservation and architectural conservation, something which I do in my practice, depending upon. And yes, there's another field which is emerging now, which is historic interiors. Many a times when the building is being restored, people would also want the interiors to be restored to its original glory and how it was. And that's the time where you have to do a lot of archival research, try to understand the period in which it was constructed, try to conjecture the kind of past, and you give it in the contemporary needs. And in that, the incorporating of services, which is air conditioning, the day-to-day present day amenities is something which is the challenge, and this is what we try to do in all our projects. So this is now a field which is also fast emerging. So earlier we used to be only approached to do the exteriors of the building, but now people are talking holistically, including the interiors. So we are often asked this question: what are the benefits of conservation? So one very important benefit of conservation is, you're conserving the resources. You're not pulling down a building, and you're not reconstructing something which will use, a lot of carbon and other things. So it's a saving on carbon footprints. It helps you in sustainability. It gives employment to the labor, which is artisans, which is the need of the hour. And the most important one is that, our infrastructure of our cities is a century old, very fragile, and we are really not upgrading that. So we keep on redeveloping, but there is no relationship to the infrastructure, how much it can cope up with, whether it is the road widths, the car parks, the water supply, or the drainage. And this is an area where if you really conserve buildings, you'll be enhancing the quality of life. Of course, there are needs of development which should come. So there should be additions, alterations, urban renewals. But only redevelopment is not the most appropriate thing. And that's where conservation comes very handy. So this profession is very satisfying and very rewarding. And I can cite from my personal experiences of last 34 years. There are examples when you restored a building, and at one stage it was declared unsafe, but having restored it, like the Aga Khan Palace in Pune, it was declared as a national monument. So it's so satisfying, and to see an unsafe building being declared as a national monument. Or for that matter, when you see water coming out from Flora Fountain 24 by 7, all 365 days, it gives you a sense of pride and a sense of joy that there's at least what you've contributed is a drop in the ocean.